Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful evening with the Virtual Tasting Society. I'm Jane Kilkenny, standing in for Vadim Perlovsky, who is here with us briefly. And tonight we are excited to welcome Jackie Zykan from Hidden Barn. And a couple of housekeeping rules, as everyone who's familiar with us knows. Please keep yourself on mute to minimize background noises. If you want to ask a question, please feel free to unmute and shout it out. Get into the chat, share tasting notes, whatever you guys want to do. But otherwise, let's have a good evening. And Jackie, take it away.
Thank you. So, hello, everybody. I'm Jackie Zykan, and I am in a car. I apologize for that, but I also have, and I want to introduce my business partner is also here joining us, Nate Weiniger. So it's he and I, and then we have another partner, Matt Denkner, and then of course, Royce Neely from the Neely Family Distillery is one of our partners as well. And that is basically the entire company of Hidden Barn. So Nate's on here, and I know he's got a great single barrel that he sent for you all to enjoy. So he'll walk you through that one because he has that and I don't. I have my weird little, I snuck a bunch of vials of whiskey on the plane. They're used to it by now, though. It's fine. So we're going to go through these one by one. You guys should have series 1, batch 4, series 1, batch 5, a Madeira finish, and series 2, batch 1, plus a 5280 single barrel. So lots of really, really good stuff. But we're going to start with that series 1, batch 4. If you haven't helped yourself to a pour of it yet, please go ahead. Thank you. I see that you've listed them. This is awesome. So the whole gist of Hidden Barn, and forgive me that my voice is fading. I'm still recovering from New Orleans, screaming over people for days on end. But we all came together and all met each other through kind of a shared pour. And actually, Nate, you do such a better job at telling the story. I'm going to let you kind of tell the background story of Hidden Barn before I get into this liquid, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem. So my name is Nate. I actually am one of the partners. 2 of us are in Colorado, 2 are in Kentucky. And the cool thing about talking to whiskey clubs, such as yourself, is I actually run a whiskey club myself called 5280 Whiskey Society in Colorado. We've been around since 2016, and that's kind of where everything kind of came from. So opening bottles, sharing bottles with people, and connecting through whiskey is where we all kind of met. Ironically, Jackie came out to Colorado to it's what's called the Bourbon and Bacon Festival. So you got bacon and bourbon, pretty good combo. But I saw that she was going to be up there, and this was the year after she had done the first birthday bourbon, and I had been fortunate to get a bottle of that. And I thought, what better of a way to see if I could go up there and if I could have a pour of it with her and kind of have her talk to me about it and share a pour. And went up there, and it's a big festival, and she had a seminar, and she took some time later in the day, and as we were sitting at the side of a lake at the bottom of a mountain, and we opened that birthday bourbon and had a pour and talked about it, and just made a connection at that time. Moving forward, Jackie began to come out to some of the 5280 whiskey events over the years with Old Forester. We'd have you pretty much every year, Jackie. She would come out, and each year, and we would do a big event. And then Royce Neely, who is a master distiller at Neely Family Distillery, very up and coming distiller. I met him in New Orleans at the New Orleans Bourbon Festival in 2019, and he was up there with, if any of you guys know Independent Stave, Andrew Weaverink, who's the head there, who's badass, very knowledgeable. And he was up there doing a presentation with Trey Zeller from Jefferson, and he kept asking these crazy questions and knew so much. And I was like, who is this young punk that is making me look just absolutely like I know nothing in whiskey? And it was Royce Neely. And I said, I have to have a conversation with this guy and have a pour with him. And just learned so much just talking with him at he began distilling allegedly at like 8 years of age. So guy's been doing it for a while. So met him there. And then Matt became a partner. He joined 5280 in about 2020. So, and we became friends and ended up being partners with 5280. And Matt does all our finance and operations. He's our finance operation guy. He deals with all that. So long story short, all of it was organically, if you want to say that word, through whiskey and opening whiskey and just being willing to share and connect. And we all became friends. And then this last year, connected Royce, Matt, and myself, and had talked about going into this. We were talking about it prior to COVID, but with COVID, everything kind of went on hold. And then right after coming out of that, we were like, let's go ahead and move forward with a brand. We've been talking about it for a while. We started to do all the prep, figuring out, okay, the whiskey, the barrels. Anybody that knows anything about a brand, it's not just like you can just say, hey, I'm going to start. Getting barrels, getting glass, getting liquid, all these things is very, very difficult, especially at that time. And we started doing all that planning and kind of doing the business plan. And then Jackie, who's been a friend and would come out to Colorado, and we always do an adventure, my wife and Jackie, and we do an adventure every year. And it was either something that I was not the greatest at. We do like snowshoeing or cross country skiing or something up in the mountains. And I was talking to her about kind of what we had been planning and what we've been doing. And she really was giving some good feedback, just like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And which started to panic me a little bit because there's a lot, you just don't know. And I think from that point, Jackie, I think she was saying, like, I actually do. I've been doing this for a long time and I actually do know a lot. And she was able to share some information. And then fast forward a little bit, I said, well, you know so much, why don't you just join us and join this brand and be an owner and a partner with us, and let's do something exciting and do something together. And I found out at the same time, pretty much as you all, that Jackie was coming to Hidden Barn when it was announced, and was very happy for that, to have someone with her talents and her abilities. And so that is how Hidden Barn came about, really. The name goes back to something with Royce and his great grandfather. They were 11th generation moonshiners. And one of the things that they would always talk about in Appalachia and some of the parts out in that area is that they would have stills. They'd have to hide their still, of course, because moonshining was illegal. And one of the things that they would do is they would, their community would protect those moonshiners because that was their source of whiskey, or that was their source of alcohol. So the community and the town or the county would protect them. But one of the things that happens, and you've seen this in the news quite a bit, is that it puts off a fungi that is this black coating, kind of sooty kind of coating on things. And so it's a dead giveaway where you're stilling, if you're stilling in the same spot, which most of them had their preferred spot because that's where the water was, their water source, of these things, that it would start to mark that you could tell. So they were stilling in a barn, and one of the things that they said is, hey, let's paint this barn to protect that, cover that. There's a lot of tobacco barns, so they could blend in with the tobacco barns that are painted black. And then the town would join in too as well and paint other things to protect their source. So that's the history of that, going back to his great grandfather and some of that, where the community would come together. And we really believe in community and that piece about it, but to protect their whiskey. So Jackie, is that anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you absolutely covered it. There is nothing else I can add to that whatsoever.
Cool.
Amazing. No, so that's okay. So that's who we are at Hidden Barn, and we are a transparent sourcing brand, if you will. We believe in full transparency. So you'll even see that on the Hidden Barn website, everything down to exactly where the barrels came from, every single part of the process. We want to share that. I think that it's really, really key and important in understanding why you're getting the flavors you're getting. If you understand the production process, we have nothing to hide. We've done nothing we're ashamed of. So let's start with some liquid, though. I hope you've been drinking it this whole time, because I have. But nonetheless, Series 1, batch 4. Sorry, 4. I had to hold it with a different hand. Nonetheless, go ahead and give it a sip unless you've already been drinking. You know the whole routine. This is a whiskey drinking group, so I don't need to like, do we need to go through the steps of like, this is how you smell it? Do we need to do that? Somebody give me feedback, please, because I'm happy to do it. I just think we're past that, right?
I think we
I
are past
literally
it,
cannot
but
see or hear. Okay. Yeah, I think you're far
I think
past.
we are, but if you have a special way
okay.
that maybe we don't know about, you're more than welcome to share it.
I honestly don't, that you probably haven't heard of, but just something to keep in mind. All of the hidden barns are barrel strength. And even though they may be in the lower range of barrel strength proofs, when you're going to really get a sense of the aromatics on it, just be sure to breathe through your nose and your mouth at the same time to kind of bypass the alcohol vapor. It'll help you get to the sweet stuff a little faster. But hidden barn, thus far, we have only done barrel strength. And so this particular series 1, it's the one with the white label. If you see it on a shelf, this one is all coming out of the Neely distillery. So what you have with this liquid is double pot still. This is all fermented in Cypress fermenters, and Royce actually catches wild yeast once a year with a bucket hung by a blackberry bush in Appalachia, and that's what he uses, and that's what he cultivates to keep it going. So you're going to get some unexpected flavors from that naturally. But it's also interesting, once you combine wild yeast, you combine Cypress fermentation, you combine pot still, you combine low distillation proof. So we're coming off the still at 125 and going into a barrel at 110. All of these factors are going to make for a whiskey that is very vastly different than the usual column still mass produced everything. There's nothing wrong with that liquid at all. It's consistent, it's reliable, it's dependable. But with this, we're bringing forth a type of bourbon that is a little bit unorthodox. So help yourself to a sip of it. I am going to do that out of my, this is fancy. This is how the professionals do it. Drink out of a vial. I always forget how, this is sad. I forget how good it is. So batch 4, I selected barrels for this one out of the Neely distillery and basically have whatever's ripe to choose from, right? And then it never comes down to, I want it to taste a certain way, it needs to taste the same, none of that. It's more so about, okay, here's the 40 barrels that are of age right now to work with. Let's select through which ones are going to get along and have the best time together. So it's all about balance, it's all about structure. And so every batch of Hidden Barn, and you'll see this as we taste through batch 5, is markedly different, very, very different. This is one of our spicier batches that come through. These are all the same mash bill. So they're all 70% corn, 20 rye, and 10 malted barley. What am I missing? What am I forgetting to say here? The barrels are all coming from the Zach Cooperage 2-year season.
Yeah, Zach Cooperage. Mm-hmm.
That's very
4 to 5 years.
This.
Age statement on this is 4 to 5 years of age. So these barrels are between 4 and 5 years of age. We do not put anything out under 4 years at this time.
No. So our batch sizes have really varied. It just kind of depends on what we need at the time. And like I said, who's getting along. This one in particular was 8 barrels in a batch, which is one of the smaller batches we've done. Smallest being 3. And you're about to taste that at the end of this. So when you do that size of batching, it's a little bit different. It's harder to hide things, right? The smaller the batch, the more every single barrel is going to show up on its own. And I actually like that. That's intentional. I don't want to have to go, oh, well, we'll just blend this off or we'll camouflage this with that or whatever. Everything is very, very purposeful in the batch. Yes, somebody just mentioned a nice little peppercorn spice on this one. You are exactly right. Of all the batches that we put together, this one definitely expresses that 20% rye on steroids, if you will. It definitely comes through. There's some really nice herbaceous notes, but everything with Neely, you're going to get grain. Like, I hate to say it so bluntly, but like, it's going to be there. We're all just going to have to accept it. We can't get rid of it. It's got nothing to do with age, though. I think after a while, maybe not this particular group, but people that are starting to get into whiskey, when they taste corn notes, they think, oh, it's really young, or it's not mature enough yet, or blah, blah, blah. This is all part of Neely's production process. When you're coming off the still that low, you're going to get every flavor. When you're not filtering your whiskey at all, you're going to get every single flavor. And I think it's important. If you really invest in good quality grain for your whiskey, why are you going to try to make your whiskey just taste like you're eating an oak coffee table? It doesn't make any sense. All parts of the process should be present and should be in balance. So I know this is Nate's favorite. Mine is coming up on batch 5. Nate prefers the spicier palate. I prefer a sweeter. So that's okay. It takes both of us to rule the world. It's all right. But Nate, is there anything else you want to add about batch 4?
I just want to, there's some good comments in the comment, Jackie, that you probably can't see. So I'm just going to share because I think some people are hitting the nail on the head with this one. You know,
I saw
the
cherry
walnut.
soft serve.
Yeah, no, so we
That's a
got
good one.
walnut, the peppercorn, definitely tea, you know, cinnamon, a little bit of cinnamon, that cherry. You guys are going to see there's going to be one of the other things with these batches is if you sip on this again in 20 minutes or 10 minutes, you're going to go on a different ride. It's amazing. Like, because these whiskeys are so complex and there's so many flavors, it continues to evolve in your glass. And I love when I'm sitting on my patio, sipping on this, maybe even with a cigar, just some of the different things. But you guys are hitting a lot of those right now. Baking spices, fruity at the same time, definitely. And it looks like cherry soft serve rolled in white pepper. And that's one of the things I really love about this one. Absolutely, is that white pepper that sticks to the top of your mouth at the end. Like, so it's an interesting finish. It's kind of a heavy finish, like right at the end. But then it does settle down as you continue to sip on this. But definitely, this is my favorite, and you'll see Jackie's favorite next. But I think we did just a funny thing is we took 1,000 people at this festival, and we had them score between batch 4 and 5 just on their palates of the two which they preferred, and it finished 448 to 552. So you're going to see that just the differences. This for me is just a really high rye bourbon, kind of nice with that spice, and that's something that I enjoy. So that's it for the comments. Jackie, keep going, and I'll just let you know if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys are okay, we're going to move on to the second one, and it's nice to taste them side by side so you can see what I'm talking about with the differences batch to batch. So the next one we're going to taste through is series 1, batch 5. So this is my favorite one. Also, let me mention that this is the one that won a gold medal for best small batch in New Orleans Bourbon Festival. So Nate, you can have your batch 4. I'm going to keep my gold medal batch 5 over here. I'm just kidding. It wouldn't be fun if we didn't give each other.
I like batch 5 too. Yeah.
I know. We all like them. We all love our children equally. Just some of them are more photogenic than others. Butterscotch on the nose. Absolutely, Amanda.
Yeah.
This one, the reason I like this one is because it is quite a bit sweeter. So same mash bill across the board, same production facility. This particular batch was a little bit larger in size. So batch 5 was 16 barrels instead of 8. Huge, I know. But Nate, do you have the actual bottles in front of you? Because I didn't write my proofs on my travel vials.
Yeah, batch 6, batch 4 was 110 proof. So that's about the higher you'll see on these, you know, with it going in at 110 proof, entry proof into the barrels. Most of these have gone down a little bit in proof in that time, but batch 5, Jackie, is 106 proof.
Perfect. All right. So one of the greatest things that I love about the Neely liquid is that because of its production method, and because we're not filtering it, we're just going straight barrel to bottle, the viscosity really comes through on this. I am a sucker for texture with whiskey all day long. It's one of the most important qualities that we try to put into these. But you are going to get a lot of butterscotch. You're going to get a lot of fruit notes with the Neely stuff. A lot of stone fruit comes through with it. Apricot is one of the most familiar notes that we get on a lot of the Neely liquid. But there's always a lot of chocolate there. This one in particular, it doesn't have the finish that batch 4 has. It's almost like you want batch 4 and batch 5 to have a baby, and then maybe it'll give you batch 23A that just came out, which I think is kind of what happened, to be totally honest with you. But nonetheless, any comments? Anybody getting anything like unorthodox? Caramel popcorn.
Like caramel popcorn, some caramel popcorn on there. You had peaches, some ripe peaches. Definitely the mouthfeel. We're getting like some buttercream, pound cake, popcorn, gooey butter cake. Definitely that butterscotch on the nose. One of the fruits, and I'll put this in your head, and you guys are gonna like, oh, but I love, like with the peach and some of these things, is we get a lot of apricot in some of these. So you may see that as we taste throughout, but especially with Neely, but there's some of that stone fruit and sometimes apricot plays. I see oatmeal cookie with frosting. Definitely. Yeah, we do need some food. I wish
love
we did
that.
have some food. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Emily, we're all gonna get together and do a dessert tasting with all of this. We can have
That'd be-
whiskey or not, but desserts are gonna happen. Oh,
Jack,
I love it.
don't say
I
things
love
you
how
don't mean. This is
engaged
being
you guys
recorded.
are.
Oh, yeah.
We're
Well,
gonna
hey,
get you
yeah,
out to LA for a dessert and
when
whiskey
we
event.
when we're on the ground in California, we'd love to do some events out there and get together with you all and see you all. I mean,
We got you on wax. That's it. You guys
yeah,
are. We're
that's
gonna roll out the
that's
red carpet.
that's a guarantee. Yeah, we'd love to come out there and do that once we're fully launched in Cali for sure.
Sounds good.
I love it. Absolutely. So I have 6 small batches of series 1. We've also done a couple of single barrels here and there, and one of which is the 5280 single barrel that you guys have. And while we're still tasting through Neely and comparing the variety of flavors that come through with the Neely liquid, this is when I want to introduce that single barrel that the 5280 Society selected to taste against these other 2 that we just went through before we get into Roland, because it's going to be a totally different ride. So Nate, I don't have a sample of this one, but I have tasted it and I know that it is incredible. But if you want to go ahead and take the reins on this one.
Yeah, and honestly, I gave you guys my last bottle. So I'm not drinking on it, but I do know, and I'll tell you a little bit of the backstory on this. So with 5280 whiskey, we're a whiskey club. We do a lot of educational events, but we were doing about 30 barrel picks a year. And one of the barrels that we did last year was this. We didn't tell our members that we were picking a hidden barn. So they did not know that they were picking the first hidden barn barrels that were going to be used. We picked up 2, and they thought they were just at Neely's going through an experience, and we ended up picking these. Now, what I will say about these single barrels, and I think you guys have the 115 proof. Is that the right one, or is it the 109? I think it's the 115 is the one I sent. Which one is it, Jane? Do you know?
It's 54.5, so 109.
It's the 109. Thank you. Okay, so it's the 109 proof. So we did 2. We did a 115 and a 109. These both were some of the first barrels that Neely did. So you're going to get more of that grain forward too. I think, especially some of these early on barrels. If you've had our batch 1 or batch 2, those were very grain forward. A lot of corn on those, like some different grains on it. But and these were a little bit higher proof than some of the other ones. So this 109. But I'm curious what some of your thoughts are on some of the flavors on this one. I know that we had some fruit on these. They're a little bit more spicy, but this was almost 110. And these were the first. You are sipping on one of the first barrel ever picked for Hidden Barn. So even before batch 1 came to be, this barrel was picked. So cocoa is definitely, you're going to see that on a lot of this cocoa powder. I like milk duds or malt. I told Jackie on some of these, it's like when you have hot movie popcorn, like butter popcorn, and you melt the chocolate milk duds in there. When you're at the movie theater, I don't know if anybody does that. That's just me doing something weird like that. But sometimes you get that. And a little bit of dusty. Yeah, I can see that on this. Peaches grilled on cedar, milk duds. Oh yeah, we do. We sent some Hidden Barn swag for y'all. So I think at the end you guys have a chance to get some swag here. Fruit mid palate. I see that on there. Let's see. Sour lime candy. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this was picked. When we do our picks, we do them blinds. This was picked from 10 different members at random, 5280 members that were out in Kentucky. We do a Camp 5280, Camp Kentucky. So that's when this was selected to go out there and visit a bunch of distilleries. So, but as you guys know, I'm sure you guys have done different single barrels. It's unique to that single barrel. This is just one type of barrel that Jackie has when she's trying to make a balanced profile. And Jackie can tell you all these single barrels that she tastes, they're all over the map. So they're very unique and all different. So But that's the first one, the 5280. Yeah. I see that it has a little bit of tang. So I think it has I do think one of them, and I can't remember which one, had a little tannic on the end of it. I'm a big tea drinker, so I pick up those tannins really quick, and I think one of them did. I'm not sure it was the 109 or the 115, but there was a little bit of tannic finish on one of these for sure. So again, first barrel that we ever picked, just to show you kind of where we started and where we're going. So any questions on it? All right, back to you, Jackie.
Thank you, Nate. I feel like we're on a news broadcast. And we're like,
All right.
back to you. Back to you. All right. So we started with series 1 when we launched Hidden Barn. And we started doing series 2 once we came across some inventory that's a bit different. So when you think of the series of this particular brand, it's not distillery to distillery. Every different series has a different common denominator. So series 1 obviously is all Neely, and it's kind of made in a very, I don't mean to sound insulting by this, but inefficient, hard way, if you will. It's made in a very old school way, very rustic style of making bourbon in Kentucky. Series 2 is a little bit different. So we wanted to ramp up the rye a little bit, but still play in the whiskeys or the bourbon circle. So high rye is the concept of series 2. It's the black label Hidden Barn if you ever see it out and about. And so the first couple of batches out of this particular series are actually coming from MB Roland, which is on the opposite side of Kentucky down south, like right along the Tennessee border. They're making some phenomenal stuff out there. Same situation. You've got this smaller distillery that's just kind of becoming ripe, if you will. A lot of small craft producers either sourced, they didn't in particular, but they either sourced and then created a name and a flavor profile for themselves off of stuff that wasn't theirs. And then boom, 4, 5, 6 years later, they're sort of having to reintroduce themselves. And so we are honestly coming in at that nice little sweet spot of going, hey, like, let's do this together. This is where the fellowship piece comes in. This is where the community and the support of the whiskey industry comes in. These are people that are doing it with quality focus and doing things the right way, and just good, solid folks that we want to share whiskey with. So MB Roland was a perfect fit for Hidden Barn. And this particular batch is one of my favorite ones that we have. So I put together, I don't know, I guess I can say it. No one really cares how many. No, we're not like going to ruin the PR if I tell you how many batches. So there's 3 batches total from MB Roland. We are currently releasing the second batch. You guys have the first one. So what happened out there was they had a contract distillation deal and the guy backed out, or lady. I don't know who it was. I'm not going to say if I did. But this was a very particular mash bill that MB Roland is not usually offering. This is 35% rye, 60% corn, and 5 malted barley. There is a little tiny bit of residual smoke. I'm going to use a C word, and it's not the C word you think I'm going to use, but contamination. It's not necessarily a bad thing. There's just a little bit of cross-pollination, let's call it that, of some smoky grain in the mill with what was going on here. You ended up with some barrels that have a little bit of that nice smoky note to them. There were 3 total out of the 30 that we ended up with. Yeah, beautiful accent, exactly. So one of those smoky barrels went into each of these 10-barrel batches. And so this was the first one. This is 5 to 6 year old liquid. This is also pot still, just like Neely. This is also unfiltered. The difference here is that at no point in the process from still to bottle has water been added at all. So they go straight still to barrel. It's coming off at 110, going directly into their barrels that they're using. And then we are just dumping it, getting the char chunks out with a screen and calling it a day. So cheers. I'm really glad you guys get to taste this one. This is my favorite one of the entire family, I think.
This is 112 proof too. 112 proof.
So good. So even though the rye has been amplified big time, I feel like that really serves to support the finish a little bit more in the structure. But for the most part, the front, the mid palate, the aromatics, certainly, this is a sweetheart, which is, of course, why I like it, because it tastes like dessert. And that's what I do. I'm curious to see what notes start popping up. You guys are so descriptive. You guys describe things the same way I do, where I'm like, it's kind of like you're standing in the forest and there's an orange tree next to a eucalyptus tree, but you're eating a Hershey bar. It's like that. Those are my favorite tasting notes. Robust tea. Yep, for sure. barbecue pork rinds and melted caramel.
That sounds
Here we go.
delicious.
Yeah, it does sound delicious.
Mhm.
I love this. Nate, anything to add about MB Rollins?
I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting that the first two, distilleries that we work with are double pot distilled whiskey. I mean, that doesn't mean that that's all we're going to be doing. Somebody asked me that the other day in New Orleans. Are you guys always going to do pot distilled? Well, we'll always have some of the Neely product in the Series 1 because Royce is one of the owners with us. But we will have column whiskey, and then we don't have, like I said, anything again column versus pot still. But it's fun to be able to do two Kentucky double pot distilled whiskeys to start, both on the craft trail. And one unique thing about MB Rollin, it was the first distillery on the craft trail in Kentucky. So it kind of started the craft movement in Kentucky, which is kind of cool. They've been there since ground zero with that. And there's some great people out there. If you ever get a chance to go to Pembroke. Yeah, for sure. Good with a cigar. 100. I love smoking this. I do cigars, and this is one that I think would pair nicely, and it does. In fact, actually, both series pair well. You never know, like especially with something sweet or what will cancel what out. They both do well with cigars. So, yeah, absolutely. Trying to catch up with all the comments here, Jackie. I don't know if you can see them or.
I know. No, I can't. I see them as they're popping up.
Chocolate for
I love
sure.
Yeah.
We get roasted nuts, chocolate, maybe a little fresh mint. Sometimes the fruit on this again though is that we'll hear like grape, like a grape, white grape kind of fruit on some of these.
For sure. Nope. And Nate, you mentioned this earlier. I think this is one of like the best parts about it is that because everything has just been brought into the bottle in raw form, it is incredibly volatile. And because we haven't filtered anything, it's going to sit there, it's going to open up very nicely, and it's going to change dramatically over the course of time with air or water or both, doesn't matter. But this is fantastic cigar pairing whiskey. It's going to last you the course of it. And as you get through it, just different notes are going to sort of peel back and unveil themselves. And it just gets rounder and rounder the longer you let it sit. When I write the notes for these in particular, and even when I go through and do my batching for these different blends, it takes me a full couple of days because I have to let it sit there. I don't want to put something together that is perfect in and of itself in that one snapshot moment. The goal is that this is whiskey you want to have a conversation with somebody. This is whiskey you want to share with somebody. That's the whole concept. And so it's a different blending technique where you're not just chasing structure and balance and obviously somewhat of a decent flavor profile, but you're also trying to format it to where it's going to stand up over the course of time with oxygen and also with a drop-in proof. So it's different, but it's an interesting challenge. A ginger snap dipped in. Oh, I missed the last part of that.
There's some fun ones in there. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I love it.
These guys
I
are
love
good.
it. I love it. I love it. This is awesome.
I think just talking and just adding to what you said, Jackie, though, about opening and sharing, like whiskey is expensive and it's getting expensive, right? And there's no question, like the cost of whiskey and bottles continue to go up and that. And I understand that as many, I see some of the collections on here in the backdrop and like, you must have a nice wife or somebody, a partner that you can get the whiskey, but it's getting expensive. And that's why we say like, with these, it's great like a setting like this where you can get a few bottles and share them and just try them and see what you like. So I think with our whiskey too, that's what Jackie's saying. Like someone gets batch 5, someone gets batch 4, and you guys open and share them, and you can see just over time kind of some of the changes, subtleties, and some of the big changes are on some of these. If you have them and you're sipping on them for an hour, I mean, you'll go on a roller coaster ride. But I appreciate what you guys do here. It's really cool to have an environment where you guys can share whiskey and taste different things and do it in this format. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. This is why we say open your bottles. Like that's what it's there for. We put a lot of work into making sure the liquid is good. It's, it's not there as decoration. It's there to hang out with folks and talk about what it reminds you of and where it takes you to. That's the most beautiful part about whiskey, is that emotional connection that it drives out of you, that vulnerability.
There's
So
a question,
we've got
Jackie,
one last one. Oh yeah.
there's
What
a
is it?
question, I think it's an important question about viscosity. Someone had
Okay.
kind of asked, like, this whiskey is it has a lot of viscosity in this whiskey. There's no question, very oily, very thick. They said, what do you think makes that happen? And I know you touched on this on a little bit for talking about how the temperature of this coming off the still versus maybe like a calm still. It can go up to 160. Not every brand is bringing up to 160, right? That strips away a lot, but they're getting up into maybe the 130s, 140s. And the higher up they go with that temperature, the more stuff they're stripping out of it. And I think, the question I would say, Jack, and I go to you as more of the expert on this, but my understanding with this whiskey is because it's only going up to around that, and NB Roland's lower than the 127, Neely's at 127, but because the temperature when you're doing pot still doesn't go up that much, it doesn't burn and strip off a lot of those things. And so it leaves more of that thickness and oils and some of the things. And you'll give the scientific terms, Jackie, so I'm doing no justice, but as a layman, I'm giving these terms.
You're doing great.
Yeah, but this is like kind of in a layman's terms, it's like it keeps those in there and it keeps more of that mouthfeel versus thinning out a whiskey where what you're doing is you're running it up to 140, 150 on a calm still, you're stripping everything out, and then you're adding water in it because you have to get it down to 125 at least minimum to get into those barrels. So you're thinning it out again as you're putting it into the barrel. There's very little water going into this process at all because you're at 127, you're going in at 110, so there's just a little bit of limestone water that's being added in. So that also helps with that too. We're not really counting on the oak and the wood to do the flavoring. We're using a lot of the flavors that are already in the mash bill and the distillate process. So I don't know what you want to add to that, Jackie, or correct me if I'm wrong in that.
No, you did a great job, Nate. You did. I am going to add to it though. So the one key piece here, I don't want to say it's key. One contribution to that whole ordeal is the low distillation proof. Absolutely. Another one though is the very generous concentration of corn in the mash that's going to give you a lot more of the oil than the other more proteinaceous grains. The other part of it is also that we're using oak staves that have been seasoned so long, you're stripping out a lot of the acid. That's really going to tighten up a lot of that. And so with a very, very well toasted and a well seasoned oak stave, making your barrel with a low distillation proof, a lot of corn and no filtration on it, that's how you're going to get that nice viscosity. So there's a lot of different, dials that you can change to, kind of alter the flavor profile that you're going to get ultimately. But with that, that's really working in our favor. And like Nate said, will all Hidden Barn be the same process? No. I mean, there's a lot of really great whiskey out there. If there's no right or wrong to it, it's just different. And we're here to really showcase what the best of all those different processes can really yield. But Nate, you did a great job. I'm very proud of you.
I'm getting better. I'm learning. I listen. So thank you.
See?
Yeah, I know a little bit now. Scary. It's real scary. I know I'm at a beginner level still, but getting there. Yeah.
It's okay. The assistant to the assistant to the assistant. You got it. I love it. It's an inside joke. I shouldn't say that's rude. Any questions that you will get to before we get into this last whiskey?
Before we get to the last
I don't see any
whiskey,
pop up. Oh yes.
I would like to invite everyone. We have a tradition to come back on camera and raise a glass to Jackie and Nate. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm really looking forward to the Madeira cask. That's something that Vadim and I have in common as a huge favorite. So everybody jump on camera and let's smile at the camera. Let's see if I got one. I did this last time and I actually managed to get a decent photo. Oh, good. Yay. All right. You're all safe.
Well, we thank you for us being on here too. It's an honor for us to be able to talk to you all and be a part of this group that's been doing a lot in California. So we always appreciate being able to have pours with people and talk whiskey, whether it's Hidden Barn or any whiskey, really. So thank you.
Well, that's awesome. So I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Stacy and the Women Who Whiskey from Long Beach, and Kim from Women Who Whiskey Los Angeles, who joined us tonight. Thank you all for coming. And back to Jackie and Nate.
Yay. All right. So what you guys have here with this is 3 barrels that were divided into 2 Madeira casks that sat for about 4 months out at Neely in the nice hot Kentucky summer. Smells like Smarties on the nose. Interesting. God, now I cannot smell Smarties. Damn, I hate when that happens. Anyways, the fun note about this one is that the first thing we all picked up on with it, this is really going to ruin the experience or maybe make it better. I don't know. It depends how much you like Lay's barbecue potato chips, but that is a primary note that we get out of this. So it's like if you had a Lay's barbecue potato chip dipped in bourbon from Neely that you also threw a raisin in your mouth at the same time is kind of like the vibe going on here with it. But it's interesting, and honestly, Madeira can be kind of hit and miss. There's a sweet spot to it when you do finishing with it because you want to allow this nice balance of getting enough extraction from the barrel, but also enough oxidation. So there's a practice to it. When you do finishing, they're expensive, right? Let's get real. Barrels are expensive. You want to fill them as much as you can. I am definitely in the camp of not always necessarily filling them all the way so that you allow a little bit of airspace so that you can sort of help those along. But I'm seeing all kinds of comments pop up. Pecans, pralines, all those nutty notes are absolutely there. Y'all are good. Why am I doing? Y'all should be leading this tasting, not me. You're in the car, going down the highway. I'm not driving. That's important to note. But I don't know, Nate, how do you feel about the Madeira?
So it scared the hell out of me, honestly, when we did this because, we were just like Jackie said, we were starting up, we were new, we have a very conservative, strict budget, and we said we wanted to do something. We had the opportunity. These barrels were something that came available to us, and we were kind of excited about it. But when you put whiskey and you do it the right way, there's a lot of finished whiskey out there, right? And some is done right and some is not. But this is purely pouring whiskey into Madeira barrels and letting it age. And to then, right when you feel like it's at its point, is pulling it out and bottling it. And we tasted this at one point and we were like, oh my God, this is done. We ruined this. We just lost 3 barrels of whiskey. This is horrible. And but we let it sit for another month and a half in that summer, that heat. And it really turned around. And I'm a savory guy, but if you mix savory and sweet together, I love that combination. And I think that's what this plays with. It's crazy in a whiskey to have savory and sweet in something. I've had spicy, like you can have that cinnamon or that nutmeg or kind of that pepper, but this is that barbecue potato chip or that glaze with that sweetness that comes out of it too is a really unique and fun pour. And we'll let you guys know, we may have some more of this coming in the future. So we'll see. This is pretty much sold out, and we launched this at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And you guys got my last bottle of this too, but I was happy to share it out too, because I've tasted it. I drank a lot of it. So hopefully it was enjoyable for you guys, but it was our first limited edition. We'll try and do one at least each year, a limited edition. Who knows what it will always be. We may come back, like I said, with some Madeira, but we may have some other things too as well. But pretty low yield on this. So yeah. The proof, Jackie, did we say what the proof on this was? 106 maybe?
We did not say it yet.
It is
I don't know
104.
about 104. Jason says it's
104 proof.
104.
Yeah, this is a 104. Cask strength again, no filtration, all the same. Kentucky straight bourbon.
Yeah.
So
Nate kind of alluded to it. I mean, not alluded to it. Nate told you, like, this one, I mean, this was a slam dunk for us. It turned out very, very nicely. I think that really lustrous graininess that the Neely juice has pairs very, very well with this. If you can find the right barrels to balance it with enough spice backbone. So we may or may not have just filled twice as many a couple weeks ago. So stay tuned. By the end of summer, hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll be in a good spot. Maybe before, and then it depends how hot the summer is this year. So we'll see. But this flavor profile definitely works incredibly well with the Neely liquid for sure.
And it did go on seal box, which I believe
Mhm.
everybody here has access to. But seal box, if we do have some, that would be someplace I would look in the future if we put some up too. So, if you like this,
Yep.
yeah. Yep.
I, for one,
Great.
absolutely delicious. I'm going to launch a poll. This is another one of our traditions
Oh, okay.
where we ask everyone what their favorite pour of the night was. And
We love this, actually. This is always
Nate and
good for us.
Jackie, you're welcome to vote.
Okay. Well, I'm voting for
Figured
batch
4 and
I
4.
just
5
did.
if you
Don't worry.
like.
Batch 4 submitted.
You know it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the votes are flying in. This is only the third time I've actually hosted the tasting, and this is kind of fun because I'm actually watching the numbers go up. It's fun.
I love it.
All the exciting stuff.
We'll see if this matches up with some of the things we've seen nationally as we've done some of these polls too, just to see. And it's fun to see different palettes, different people and different perspective, like things that they like. So it's always been it's good for us, and we always appreciate getting feedback. We're not afraid of feedback, and we always like constructive feedback because, like I said, we're new and we want to make a whiskey that whiskey people like. And so we always like the feedback. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, we're always happy to share the feedback because we do not lack for opinions. Still waiting for a couple of
I
people
have no doubt.
to decide. All right, you guys have a couple of seconds before I close it. Okay, somebody got in. And do you guys have anything in line, like something super awesome that you are planning that you haven't quite set up yet? Any
Yeah, maybe.
other wine finishes or
maybe.
interesting things?
Maybe.
I
mean,
babies.
I
I
did
know.
say-
And like, I want to be able to. Go ahead.
No, I'm not gonna say it. I
If
don't
there's
wanna get in trouble.
anything that's no, like we've already like said too much. But if there's anything that would be that interesting, I assure you we would not say it before we could get PR value out of it, just to be totally transparent with you. So there's more Madeira
Absolutely
coming.
fair.
Let's settle with that, right?
Absolutely fair.
What I can
Okay.
tell you though is that you've seen series 1, you've seen series 2, so you've seen a bourbon that's a basic bourbon mash bill. It's a little still. Some would consider it a high rye bourbon at 20%, but it's a basic. And we have a high rye bourbon, so that leaves the door open for a lot of other options. And I will say there is one barrel that we did that's an outlier. That is at the Stanley Hotel. And I don't know if you guys know the famous Stanley Hotel out in Estes Park, Colorado. And I would look for them to be probably announcing that here pretty soon in this month. But they did a single barrel of something. They were one of the first to kind of partner with us. We did a big event there. So maybe something in that bourbon wheat variety might be there. So there might be a wheater there. So that's something that we have lots of options. Let's just say this. And the best thing about us is nobody tells us what we have to make or what we have to do. So we're very fortunate that we don't have people that say, oh, you need to do bottle and bond, or you need to do this, or we need to get a proof of 86 so that we can have more volume. We decide together kind of the direction we want to go and look at the barrels that we have available and then make those decisions, which is kind of fun. It's exciting to have give Jackie the paint and let her use that on the palette and figure out on the painting what we think is where the next direction we're going. So
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's honestly about just what is going to taste best, and not every barrel and not every batch tastes best at barrel strength. And so From this
Yeah.
point moving forward, we've actually shifted that all of our single barrels will be proofed to whatever point the consumer wants them at, which is kind of a nightmare on our end logistically and for a million different reasons, but that's what it needs to be. Like if you only try one bottle of Hidden Barn and it happens to be that single barrel, I would hate for it to not be expressed at the proof that it really shines its best light. So
Yeah.
because we're small, we can do things like that, which is really, really important for the integrity of the category, I think.
We just did our first single barrel under that new pretense, and they did proof it down about 4 points, and really felt like it shined at that proof, which was kind of fun. It's fun to do that and to see, because I know there's a lot of people that think whiskey has to be cast strength and 120 proof plus, but sometimes you lose some of the flavor and some of the complexities out of whiskey when you drink it at that proof. You don't also see the flaws sometimes. So. Yep.
Well, that's super cool. Do you guys want to take a wild guess on what was the favorite of the evening?
I'm going to say it was the Madeira.
Nate?
I'm going to say it was either the Madeira or maybe batch 5.
You're both really close. Madeira took it by a couple of people. Madeira came in first with 8, batch 5 and series 2, batch 1, both tied for second place. Batch 4, series 1, and then single barrel. Everything got a vote.
That's probably how.
it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And nobody's wrong. That's the great thing about it. So everybody that voted for your favorites, that's what you like, and that's what's important, and that's what's cool about whiskey. So, but that's cool to see. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to share the love. There were a couple of questions that people asked in the chat. Were you thinking possibly of jumping into single malt or the new American single malt space at all?
I mean, in full disclosure, we've talked about it because we've entertained doing rum. Like we can do whatever we want. I just think right now our primary focus is more bourbon centric, but you never know. We could have barrels laid down already that I just can't talk about. I just don't know, but it's been a conversation.
Yeah, that's always the best answer. I love those answers.
Well, we've talked to distilleries, and I'm from Colorado, and single malt, American single malt, has been huge in Colorado for years now. And so we have those connections and relationships, and those are things that down the line, if those are things we wanted to partner with, definitely. It's exciting, some of the things that's happening with American single malt, and to see if they really officially become a category and how it kind of goes through. And I know they're still going back and forth on some of those, what the rules and things would be. I think you'll probably see a lot more American single malt though, because you don't need American new oak, and barrels are very tough to get right now. So you might see that expansion. But I think Jackie and I primarily, and I'm not to say, it's not something we would do, but definitely bourbon and rye and probably wheated bourbon. Some of those things are where our heads are at right now, but never say never. You never know. So
I think TTB actually approved it just recently. That
I saw
American
it was
yeah.
I saw that. That's right, Mark. I think they approved it, and then I saw something the other day where something changed with some of it. So I hear a lot of chatter here just from Stranahan's and and Boulder Spirits, because they're all big into that here. So
There's a lot of people in your neck of the woods that are heavily involved in that and have been for some time.
Absolutely, which is exciting. And I've tasted some. Spirit Hound is another one. I mean, they've won some major awards. So, but yeah, it's fun. So there's some really good American single malt out there. It's exciting to see. Old Line out of Baltimore area. They won. I think they took the top single malt with Minix thing with the Ascots last year. We actually did a single barrel with them. It was outstanding. So there's some quality American single malts. An exciting category.
Cedar Ridge in Iowa.
Cedar Ridge is fantastic as well. Very good stuff. Yeah. So
another question from the chat is, can you share how you approach the blending process, and is it different now that you have your own brand?
I'm going to answer that with the second part of it first. It's absolutely different because the intention behind it isn't for consistency anymore, which is a very different approach. it's also thus far been all natural habitat, if you will, for the barrels. I'm not dealing with heat cycled liquid anymore, which in and of itself has sort of this like baseline consistency to it. It's different, but it's not, because at the end of the day, it's all about quality and it's about defect detection more so than anything. But with Royce's inventory, which, I mean, the Roland inventory, obviously I worked with as well, but more familiar with Royce's inventory because we've done more batches out there. It's very diversified, which makes it fun, but it also makes it a challenge, right? Because there are flavors coming out that I haven't had to play with before, that I don't know how they're going to react together. It's not just like, oh, well, take a sweet barrel and a spicy barrel and put it together and it's going to be great. No. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, there's a process to putting together Hidden Barn that's not just instantaneous for the experience. It's supposed to have a little bit more longevity in the glass, that you're supposed to have this conversation about it. It's supposed to shift and change a little bit. So it's very time consuming. It's vastly different. And I never know what I'm going to get to play with. Like, it's a surprise every single time. So it could be 40 barrels to choose from. It could be 200 barrels to choose from, but every single one of them is always extracted from the barrel in sample form. And I do, because it's going to be at barrel strength for these batches, I do taste it at barrel strength, but I always proof it down to 40 first for defect detection, no matter what. And then you just kind of start piecing them together. The other key piece to it is that just because you have 10 barrels doesn't mean they're all going to yield the same amount of liquid. So you have to keep in mind the volume of each barrel is going to be the contribution to the blend. So you either take 3 milliliters from this sample plus 5 milliliters from this one plus 7 from that one that are indicative of 30%, 50%, 70%, so on and so forth. So you have to keep that in mind. And then there's just steps to it. I don't know, but I don't ever go into today. It's not about that. It's more so, okay, let's see what we have on offer. And then after you kind of, like Nate calls it, colors, like after you see what colors you have to play with, and you're like, oh, okay, we can make a sunset out of this. Okay, great, let's do it. And so it keeps you on your toes, and it's nerve-wracking as all hell. And every time we release a batch, I'm like, it's terrible. Everyone's going to hate it. It's going to be awful. Oh my God. And then people drink it and they're like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, okay, we're good. I never know how people are going to react to it, because I'm literally going rogue every single time. And it's terrifying, but it's okay.
Yeah, the other thing, Jackie, just to add, is when you do barrel batches of 15, 8, 4, even 20, every barrel plays. So there is no hiding barrels in these batches. And
Right.
when you do Old Forester or Four Roses or Heaven Hell, when you're talking about hundreds of barrels, you can hide barrels in there. You can hide flaws. You can hide things in those barrels in those larger batches. And that's another thing that Jackie has to deal with, is every one of these barrels is going to shine at those barrel yields, and that makes it fun and also interesting, So, yeah.
And another one of the questions is, do you have any future plans for a private barrel program?
Yeah. So we do actually have a private barrel program. It's been very limited, and part of that is because we've only been going. This is coming into our 8th month right now. So a lot of our barrels have gone into our small batches. As you can see, we have low numbers. Our small batches are very low number barrels, but we have done some single barrels. As we launch into different states, Missouri, we just did some single barrels with them. We've done Kentucky, Southern Colorado. Eventually here we'll have some in Louisiana, and then also we just launched in Nevada too as well. So as we continue to expand, we've been very conservative about being able to expand. We want to come into California, but honestly, y'all could wipe us out, our whole stock, in probably 4 hours. We're still pretty small. We're still growing. We do have a new make program. We've been laying down barrels too, and that's something that we didn't talk about really, but we will have these profiles in the future because we're able to, we've had new make with these profiles. So we're not going to have like Series 1 all of a sudden is this this flavor completely different because we have barrels that are being laid down for Series 1. Now, high rye bourbon could be from a different distillery in the future. Like that's something that we could definitely do, and another series could be. But we've talked to California, and I think even just Total Wine wanted everything. So you know, we're trying to get into it so that we can keep things on the shelf when we get there. We don't want it to be so you go, we get on the shelf, and then you can't find us again for 6 months or 5 months. That's a real pain in the ass.
Yeah,
that would be a pain in
makes
the ass to
sense.
me. So,
Yeah, this
but
group is
seal
known
box is a
for
way you can still
wiping
get it.
shelves out, so
Yeah, exactly.
understandable. Someone else wanted to know if you have plans for expanding distribution to new states. Basically, they're asking for a friend who lives in Texas.
Yeah, so Texas is very similar to California, right? So Texas has specs. So we could sell them all our product tomorrow as well. And they've been asking and definitely want us to be in Texas, and same with Florida. Those three are monster whiskey consumers in a good way, but it is just what it is. So we would have to pick one of those. And if I was going to pick one, because I'm on with all you guys today, I would say California. Right? But if I was on with everybody from Texas, I might say Texas. But no, I'm just saying, you know, for us right now, we are using Sealbox. We also have the ability through Liberation Distribution, which is a national distribution chain. There's potential for single barrels down the line to go to California, Texas, Florida. Potentially, there's a way to do that. But as of right now, Sealbox is the best bet. We are doing some single barrels, Jackie, through Sealbox that I think that just got shipped to them today or yesterday. So Jackie selected 2 single barrels that nobody knows about. So that's a fresh off the press. There hasn't even been PR on that. So sorry if I ruined that, but there will be 2 single barrels that you might see come up very quickly that are some killers on Sealbox. They'll probably go fast, but if you're on there, sign up because they'll tell you when they're coming for sure. So
sounds good. Another question is, how would you compare Series 2 Batch 1 to Series 2 Batch 2?
Series 2 Batch 1. They're different.
So they are
Yeah.
different, but I want to say that batch 1 of series 2 is more sweet natured than batch 2 series 2. So, right. Hold on. Series 2 batch 1 is sweeter than series 2 batch 2.
Yeah.
Series 2 batch 2 is a lot more herbaceous. So a lot more of what rye brings to the table in that zone, whether it be dill, that caraway note, things of that sort. That's what really comes through on batch 2. But I don't know. I'll say it all day long. I prefer sweeter whiskey, so batch 1 of series 2 is my favorite, hands down.
Yeah, I really liked Series 2 Batch 2. I thought like that's where I compare it was that cocoa note, like a really chocolatey kind of milk duddy. There's some of that in there, and I thought it played well with the rye spice in there and some of the other flavors in it. So
sounds fun. And in Colorado, is there an accessible distillery tour experience that you have or are planning?
Yeah. So we're out of Kentucky, but being a native of Colorado, being Colorado, there's 110 distilleries in Colorado. 90 of those, about 90 to 95 of those produce a brown spirit, whiskey of some sort, whether it's American single malt, rye, bourbon, whatnot. And they have just come out, the Colorado Whiskey Distillers Guild just came out with a new kind of interactive map. It's like an app, and you can go in there and it will take you to all these distilleries that are all over the state. There's some major distilleries out here that some of you may know. Stranahan's has been around for a long time. 80 Laws, you've maybe heard of. 291, Old Elk. Some of these are out here. There's some big boys, but there's some really good small craft distilleries like Jackie and I kind of talk about that are like hidden gems like Deer Hammer, Woody Creek. Some fantastic distilleries out here that produce some great products. So yeah, if you come out to Colorado, you're always welcome to hit me up on Instagram at 5280 Whiskey. If you're coming out here, and I'm happy to take time just to kind of maybe push you in the direction or answer questions when you come out to Colorado to tour and want to visit some of those places. I can kind of direct you. I'm happy to do that if you want to message me on Instagram.
Sounds good. Anybody else have any other questions? I'd like to be respectful of your time, and I know you're still in the car, Jackie. So I would like so much to thank you guys for both being here tonight. It's been fabulous. The whiskeys are delicious. I'm sure everyone has enjoyed it. And, you know,
Thank you,
if you
guys.
come to LA, we would love to host you. I'm sure we can set something up.
That'd be fantastic. When we definitely come out there, you guys will be the first group we go to.
That would
We
be
know there's a lot of
fantastic.
groups out there, but we appreciate you guys and you guys reaching out to us early on. I think you guys reached out to us at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival last year and had said this is what we wanted to do. So I want to see some people win the swag. What all did you guys get? I can't remember what I sent y'all. Was it hats?
I actually have the randomizer wheel all set up. If you guys want to watch the insanity, I have 5 shirts and 3 hats to raffle off.
Okay. The randomizer wheel, you called it?
Yeah.
Wheel of Insanity. What was it called? Sounds exciting.
It's the Wheel of Insanity.
Okay.
All right. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. So let me shuffle this a couple of
Oh my
times.
God. This is look at this. This is real deal.
All right. So this is everybody that bought tickets. If you bought more than one, you're on here twice. Congratulations, Tiffany. So I have to remind everyone, and I have to look this up because Vadim sent me specific instructions to remind you that if you order another VT tasting, please put in the notes section what you won, and he'll make sure to include it in your next shipment or with your next whiskey train drop off. And please try and claim it within 30 days, or at least let him know if you're going to take longer so that he doesn't have to hold on to it indefinitely. He's running out of room in the garage. And let's see. So that's Tiffany. Sorry, I have to write this down because I was talking and didn't do it. All right, number 2. Sorry, this is my first time with the Wheel of Doom, so I gotta make sure I did this right. Okay, number 2. Susan. And if you, I didn't actually specify if you want a hat or a t-shirt, please send me a message real quick and I'll like put you on the list for those. And let's see. Oops. I have too many screens open. There it is. All right. And number 3. Then. That's 3. All right. Congratulations. Vicky. Amanda, that held on just by this teeth. Emily. Yes, I'm still counting to make sure I haven't done it too many times.
I feel like I went to high school with someone named Emily Rankin, but that's probably different Emily Rankin, I'm assuming.
I do have some family in Tennessee, but
Okay.
most of my family's
Okay,
here in
that's
Southern
hilarious.
California.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
I'm gonna take my name out.
Oh, boo! That was
You can do
legit.
whatever.
You didn't pick yourself.
I didn't mean to pick myself. I actually meant to take my name out earlier and I forgot. So I'll spin that one again. Although it would make up for the one that I won the one night I couldn't be on a tasting. Congratulations, Theo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Wait, I have to go back and count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's it. That's 8. So I'm gonna stop my share here if I can find it again. Stop share. There it is. Okay. So congratulations to Tiffany, Jason, Jordan, Jeff, Vicky, Amanda, Emily, and Theo. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for having us. We appreciate it.
Hey, y'all! Before we're all done,
Thank you all.
before we're all done, Jackie, Nate, thank you so much. Jackie, there's a whole bunch of people in here that are huge fans of what you've done in the past and what you're doing now. A few of us were out there at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival and got your the Series 1 Batch 3 and the Madeira.
Oh.
I know Jason's holding one up there, but
Mhm.
like I said, I know there's people that are huge, like a few people here that are huge fans of what you're doing, and we're excited about what you guys have in store. And this experience was awesome, especially having you guys go through and talk about, you know, all the details of what you guys are doing, all the transparency. Just been a blast. So just wanted to make sure to reiterate what a good time it was, and how much we appreciate you guys taking the time to do that with us. And we look forward to supporting your brand as you guys move forward.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate that,
Thank
man.
you so much. Yeah, thank you. That's so kind. It's so nice to hear. So follow us, or just keep an eye out. We do have some new stuff coming out just around the corner. There will always be something different for sure, but we'll be out and about at different whiskey festivals and stuff. So just come say hi. Also apologies that I'm in this like spotlight in the car, weird silhouette thing. I didn't do it for like vibe at all. I'm just in the car and I planned poorly. I'm a human. Anyway, nonetheless, thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of it.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night. Thank you.
Open this
Thank you,
week.
Nate. Thank you,
Cheers.
Jackie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, I'm gonna